Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos.
The main character, after dying in his previous life, wakes up inside of One Piece as Kaido's adopted son. He got adopted by Kaido because he awakens Conqueror's Haki at the start.
That demon child has become stronger during this time. Is that all? Akinu pressed. No, the Den Mushy's voice was even more desperate. That brat. He's got his eye on the Golden Emperor Tesoro and all the underworld bosses here. He said he won't let a single one escape. Good lad. This little guy is just my type. What a pity. Why did he have to be Kaido's son? Carp was quite disappointed. The others, however, were extremely solemn. Tesoro was furious. He also awakened his devil fruit and teamed up with Doflamingo to attack that brat. But then, that brat stretched out a hand, and a gigantic white tiger rushed out of his hand. That's what he shouted, "Daytime, tiger." That white tiger completely obliterated the combined attack of the Golden Emperor and Doflamingo. Completely obliterated them. It was utterly devastating. The Golden Emperor's golden giant form was instantly shattered. Doflamingo was also blasted away. The naval high-ranking officers present couldn't help but show surprise. One move, and he broke the combined awakened ultimate attack of two Shichibuka-level powerhouses. It's not over yet. That brat appeared in front of Doflamingo like he teleported, and with one punch. Just one punch. Doflamingo's awakened defense was as flimsy as paper, and he was sent flying, his fate unknown. Then he went to find the Golden Emperor. He punched him again. The Golden Emperor's golden barrier shattered layer by layer. He was also sent flying. He immediately passed out. Hiss. One punch, and he's down a Shichibuka-level character. Just how strong is this demon child Lin, really? So in the end, Doflamingo and Tesoro admitted defeat, right? Zhang Guo asked in a deep voice. Yes, Marshal of the Warring States period. In the end, Doflamingo was forced to hand over all the Smile Devil fruits. The Golden Emperor Tesoro was extorted for 10 billion berries by that brat. 10 billion, Aokiji muttered to himself, his lips twitching. The office remained deathly silent for a long time. Zhang Guo slowly sat back in his chair, feeling a chill run through his body. He looked at the bounty poster for Demon Child Lin on the table. That delicate, innocent little face in his eyes was more terrifying than any vicious pirate. Billion. Too few. Based on the current situation, the bounty should start at least at 20 billion. Chapter 38. A bounty of 30 billion, the name of the demon child Lin once again shakes the entire Ock. Sengoku took a deep breath, his gaze sweeping over the faces of the three generals, and finally he made a difficult decision. Pass on my orders. The bounty on Lin, the demon child. He paused, seemingly considering a number that would match this monster. Upgraded to 3 billion berries. Garp spat out the senbei he was eating. 3 billion. Kizaru's sunglasses slipped down to the tip of his nose, revealing his astonished eyes. Oh, Tilda Fleet Admiral, are you serious? From 1 billion to 3 billion berries in one go. This is truly unprecedented. Akinu's brow twitched violently. 30 billion. This number surpassed that of most great pirates, approaching the top executives of the four emperors, and even the four emperors themselves in certain states. Aokiji opened his eyes, his gaze filled with shock. 3 billion. Mr. Sengoku, isn't that number a bit too much? Not high, Sengoku interrupted decisively. This brat's danger level far exceeds our imagination. His very existence is trampling on the rules of the world. If we allow him to continue growing, I simply cannot imagine what the ocean will become. 30 billion is meant to show the world how much the Navy values this prodigy. It's meant to make those who harbor illusions about him think twice about their own worth. The voice of the warring states echoed in the office, carrying an undeniable resolve. The news, as if it had sprouted wings, spread throughout the world at lightning speed. Morgan's World Economic News, with unprecedented coverage and intensity, reported on this earth-shattering news. Extra, extra. The youngest monster in history, with the fastest rising bounty, has been born. Lin's long halftime walk. Bounty, 3 billion berries. When this number appeared on the front page of newspapers, the whole world went crazy. 3 billion. Am I seeing things? Are you kidding me? A 1-year-old kid with a 3 billion bounty. This is higher than many legendary pirates, isn't it? Has the Navy gone mad? Or has this brat named Lin really done something earth-shattering? In taverns, on the streets, on ships, countless people held newspapers, discussing the matter animatedly, their faces filled with disbelief and profound horror. The newspaper then went on to reveal in detail Lin's glorious record in Dressrosa. When people saw that this little baby, just over a year old, had actually defeated the combined forces of two infamous Shichibuka-level powerhouses, Doflamingo and Guild Tesoro, with overwhelming force. Obviously, all dissenting voices vanished instantly. Instead, there was a deep-seated fear and unparalleled shock. Is this even human? Kaido's son. Is he actually an ancient behemoth disguised as a baby? This is terrifying. The world is about to change. A new world, Whole Cake Island. Mom. Mom. Something terrible has happened. Prospero rushed into Bigham's bedroom in a panic. Ahem. What's going on, Prospero? Is the cake telecom ready yet? Big Mom was lying on the giant candy bed, enjoying the homie's service, drooling. Prospero handed over the newspaper, his voice trembling. You should see for yourself. Bigmom took the newspaper, initially nonchalant, but when her gaze fell on the words, Demon Child Lin, bounty of 3 billion, her enormous pupils suddenly contracted. Then, after witnessing Lin's various feats in Dressrosa, bang! Bigmom suddenly sat up in bed, his terrifying aura erupting instantly, causing the entire Whole Cake Island to tremble. Lin, the demon child. It's him again. A brat who's just over a year old can defeat two Shichibuka. 30 billion. This time it's actually 30 billion. That bastard Kaido. Why? Why does he have such an amazing son? She let out a deafening roar, her voice filled with boundless jealousy and raging fury. Katakuri, Smoothie, and other sweet commanders stood aside, trembling and barely daring to breathe. Bigmom grew angrier and more jealous as he thought about it, drool uncontrollably dripping from the corners of his mouth, his eyes filled with greed and possessiveness. How could such a good son be allowed to fall into the hands of that drunkard Kaido? She slammed her hand on the edge of the bed and ordered Prospero and the others, listen to me. Send men immediately. At all costs. Bring that brat named Lin here. I'm going to make him my son. Mumba. With him, my dream of becoming the Pirate King is just around the corner. The new world, a certain sea area, the Moby Dick. Lin, the demon child. The bounty has increased from 1 billion to 3 billion. Edward Newgate, with his white beard, held a huge naginata, and looked at the newspaper in his hand with an unusual expression of surprise, even though he was very knowledgeable and experienced. I have experienced countless grand occasions, but even he was moved by the sight of the bounty skyrocketing by 20 billion. Of course, what truly unsettled him was that this little guy was Kaido's son. That Kaido guy really got lucky, Jozu said in a deep voice, his huge fists clenching so tightly they cracked. A kid who's just over a year old defeated Doflamingo and Tesoro. 30 billion. This brat's threat level is already no less than that of one of the 4 emperors. The captains, including Vista and Sacha, looked at each other in surprise and resentment. The Whitebeard pirates and the Beast's pirates have always been at odds. If Lin were from another pirate crew, they might not have reacted much. Unfortunately, he's a member of the Beast's pirates and also Kaido's adopted son. Kaido. HMPH, that damned idiot, how could he have such a son? The white-bearded man down the wine in his bowl in one gulp, a glint of shrewdness flashing in his eyes. But I have to admit, even I am starting to feel a little jealous of him now. The team leaders were all taken aback upon hearing this. The fact that their father could utter the word jealousy shows just how much of an impact that troublesome child Lin had on them. Another sea area. On the Redfords of the red-haired pirates. Captain, Whitebeard has replied. He's agreed to meet. Yasop ran over excitedly. Oh, that old man has finally agreed to give us face. Shanks grinned in a great mood. Just then, a news-delivering gull landed on the deck. Raki Lu munched on a chicken leg and casually picked up a newspaper. Next second, puff! Raki La spat out the chicken leg he was eating, his eyes widening in disbelief. The ship. Captain, look at this. Shanks took the newspaper with a puzzled look, and when he saw Lin's 3 billion bounty and the results below, the smile on his face froze instantly. His one arm trembled slightly. Ben Beckman, with a cigarette dangling from his lips, leaned over for a glance, his expression becoming incredibly serious. The other carders took the newspapers and read them. They stared at each other in disbelief. You must be kidding me. Lin the demon child. Locksdale, isn't this the little guy who stole your letter last time? Doflamingo, the golden emperor Tesoro. These two are both infamous pirates on the entire sea, and they were actually defeated by a little guy. Lockstar, even someone as formidable as you lost. You deserved your defeat, so don't blame yourself anymore. The crew members also exclaimed in surprise. Lin the demon child. The son of Kaido of the beasts. Shanks muttered to himself, his eyes filled with complex emotions and disbelief. This name, this brat. They can no longer be ignored. Chapter 39. Everyone in the 7 Warlords Sea is in danger. Lin's request to meet a deserted island. Hawkeye Mihawk sat alone in front of the simple wooden hut, polishing the supreme grade sword, Knight. The newspaper was carelessly tossed aside, but the headline 3 billion and the name Lin the Demon Child stood out prominently. In his deep, eagle-like eyes, there was no fear, but rather a barely perceptible sharpness, like that of a worthy opponent. Kaido's son. Mihawk muttered to himself, a very faint smile curving his lips. Interesting. To actually push those 2 guys to that point. 3 billion. The Navy is certainly willing to spend that much. He picked up the bottle and took a swig. His gaze drifted into the distance, as if he were anticipating something. Daughter Island, Amazon Lily. 3 billion. Empress Boa Hancock looked at the newspaper, and for the first time, Her beautiful face showed an expression of extreme shock, unable to maintain her usual arrogance. A little brat wearing open-crotch pants. The nine-headed serpent warriors behind her were also dumbfounded and discussing among themselves. They actually defeated the combined forces of Doflamingo and Tesoro. How is this possible? Hancock abruptly stood up and left the palace. Lady Snake Princess, where are you going? Cultivation. Obviously. Hancock was provoked by the little guy. If she doesn't train soon, she might not even be able to beat this brat in open-crotch pants. A secret base somewhere. The Revolutionary Army Commander-in-Chief, Monkey D. Dragon was looking at the intelligence in his hand. Lin the Demon Child. 3 billion. His chief of staff, Sabo, standing beside him, couldn't help but click his tongue in astonishment. This kid is outrageous. A 3 billion bounty on his head, at just over a year old. If it weren't for the confirmation, I would have thought someone was playing a prank. The dragon's face was expressionless. Kaido's son, the beast's pirates. He pondered for a moment, then slowly said, Kira, keep a close eye on Lin's movements. Yes. It's a dragon. On a simple wooden raft in a certain sea area. Thief, ha. Blackbeard Teach was tearing into cherry pie, his mouth full of crumbs, his laughter rough and unrestrained. Several recent newspapers were scattered on the deck in front of him. Is what's in the newspaper true or false? Sniper Van Oka pushed up his hat, his tone incredulous. He had just finished reading the report about Lin the Demon Child, whose 3 billion bounty led to the defeat of 2 Shichibukai who joined forces. It seems like a complete fantasy. Cough, cough, the sickly Doc Q, riding his equally sickly horse, Zhongzhuang, spoke weakly. These rumors are mostly exaggerated by the Navy to, cough, deter the pirates. This is how the Navy always does things. Helmsman Lafayette tapped the deck lightly with his cane, letting out a strange laugh. Only the fighting champion, Zisha's Barsas, was pale, his forehead covered with large beads of sweat, and his body was trembling slightly uncontrollably. No, it's not fake. Basha's voice was filled with intense fear, his teeth chattering. That little monster, it's absolutely real. Basa, what's wrong with you today? Are you scared out of your wits? Van Auger frowned as well. Barthas, do you know that brat Lin? More than just acquaintances. Back when the captain and I had just escaped Whitebeard's territory in the New World, it was him who almost killed us. What? Van Auger, Doc Q, and Lafayette all changed their expressions at the same time. They looked at Teach with surprise and disbelief in their eyes. Teach's expression also turned somewhat unpleasant. He put down the cherry pie in his hand, touched his missing teeth with his thick fingers, and let out a dry laugh of zehaha. But the laughter sounded somewhat forced. Ha ha ha. That kid. He's got some skills after all. A barely perceptible glint of apprehension flashed in Teach's eyes. If I hadn't run fast. I'm afraid. Humph. He didn't continue speaking. But Van Auger and the others already understood. Even the captain admitted that they almost crashed. That demon child Lin is really that terrifying. If they really grow up in the future, what will become of them? But it doesn't matter. Blackbeard grinned smugly, wisps of black mist appearing on his hands. Once my plan succeeds, forget about that mere demon child Lin, even Kaido himself, Whitebeard, Shanks. None of them will be a problem. The others regained their confidence. Indeed. If Captain Blackbeard's plan is implemented, then they will all have the opportunity to become figures comparable to admirals. Onigashima, inside Kaido's castle. Kaido's deafening laughter nearly turned the entire Onigashima upside down. He held the latest newspaper in his hand, and his huge spiked club, 8 precepts, was casually tossed aside. 3 billion. My son. 3 billion peel. Kaido roared to the sky, his face beaming with pride and excitement. And that bastard, Tesoro. 10 billion berries. Not a penny less. It all came. Oh. Below the main hall, countless enormous boxes were piled up like mountains, their golden pellies almost overflowing, dazzling the eyes. This is the compensation sent by the Golden Emperor Tesoro. Kaido has lived for so long and fought so many battles, but he has never been as happy as he is today. I've struck gold. Lin, this adopted son, is simply a rare genius who fell from the sky. Do not. Even more awesome than a prodigy. Lin. My good son. Kaido scooped up Lin, who was yawning and hovering in midair, and pulled him into his arms, rubbing his rough cheek against Lin's tender face. Oh ho. Tell me, what reward do you want? Everything I have, I'll give you. Kaido was overjoyed, and found Lin pleasing to the eye no matter what. On both sides of the main hall, the 3 calamities, King, Queen, Jack, and the Flying Six, along with other high-ranking officers of the Beast's pirates, were all beaming with pride. Young Master Lin has earned the Beast's pirates a tremendous amount of prestige. Lin frowned slightly, feeling a little uncomfortable from Kaido rubbing against him. He stretched out his chubby little hand and pushed away Kaido's big face. Then, with her dark eyes looking at Kaido, she spoke in a childish voice. Ida. He pointed with his little finger to the vast sky outside. Ahem. You want to go out and play? Kaido was slightly taken aback. Lin shook her head. Then he held up 4 little fingers and pointed. Then they made a fist-bumping motion. Ida. 4 emperors. Jae-hin was the first to react, and his face, which was always hidden behind a mask, now showed a look of surprise. Does young Master Lin mean? He wants to meet the other 4 emperors. Quin's obese body trembled, and the cigar in his mouth almost fell out. No, it's more than just meeting, isn't it? Jack looked at Lin's eager eyes, and the way his fists were clapping together, and swallowed hard. Young Master Lin. He seems to want to spar with the other 4 emperors. Upon hearing this, the entire hall fell into an eerie silence. The Beast's pirates' officers were all dumbfounded, their jaws nearly dropping in shock. To clash with the other 4 emperors. Young Master Lin is only a little over a year old. Although his strength is ridiculously abnormal, he is still one of the 4 emperors. Each and every one of them is a monster reigning supreme in the New World. Kaido was also taken aback, and then his copper bell-like eyes burst forth with an unprecedentedly bright light. Another burst of earth-shattering, maniacal laughter erupted. No wonder he's my son. He's got guts. Kaido lifted Lin high into the air. Fine. Since you want to see those old guys, I'll take you. Perfect timing. I've also heard the news that Shanks and the Whitebeard will be meeting in a few days. I'll personally take you to see just how big the gap is between the other 4 emperors and your father me. Chapter 40. The meeting of the 2 emperors. Kaido arrives with Demon Child. Lin smiled. The reason he took the initiative to participate in the meeting between the Red and White Emperors was because all 3 missions could be used in this trip. Mission 1. Witness the historic meeting between the 4 emperors, Edward Newgate, Whitebeard, and Shanks, Redhair. He's just a little kid. although their current strength is considerable. However, it's impossible for them to meet at close range without being discovered. It's impossible for them not to be targeted. But with Kaido protecting them, this mission was completed without any difficulty. Mission 2. Engage in direct combat with a Marine Admiral or higher-ranking officer and sustain the fight for more than 1 minute. Note: passive resistance is not allowed. Effective offense and defense are required. Aren't the 4 emperors just generals or even higher-ranking figures? If only he could take the initiative to fight Whitebeard or Shanks for even a minute. The reward for this task can be easily obtained without any effort. Mission 3. Defeat 4 characters of Shichibukai rank or higher. Note: targets already defeated are not counted. Needless to say, this is even more obvious. Which of the vice captains or first mates under the 4 emperors is not a person with combat power of the 7 warlords of the sea or above? Whether it's the Whitebeard pirates or the red-haired pirates, as long as you can find a reason or opportunity. He confronted several of the officials. This task is entirely within my grasp, and I can unlock another multiverse ability in one go. Kaido was present. Even if he exhausts himself due to the excessive use of his stamina and Conqueror's Haki, he doesn't need to worry about losing his life. This can be seen. If handled properly, this trip will definitely be very fruitful. Marine Headquarters, Marineford. Marshal's office. All the warships near Whitebeard and Redhead are destroyed. Yes, Marshal. Not a single one left. I understand, Sengoku pondered. That 2 monsters meeting is a powder keg. I just hope they don't actually set it on fire. He slammed down the den mushi. Kizaru, legs crossed, pushed up his sunglasses. Oh my, that's really scary. 2 emperors of the sea meeting in private. I wonder what they're up to. Akinu, his face stern, crossed his arms. That Shanks guy has always been a dangerous element. Nobody can fathom his motives. Crane said in a deep voice, the fact that Redhead is in such a hurry to meet Whitebeard is most likely related to the defector Blackbeard. Sudden. Another den mushi from the emergency line of the G5 branch rang sharply, its eyes wide open, looking as if the sky had fallen in terror. Sengoku grabbed the den mushi. What's wrong? Fleet Admiral. Urgent intelligence from Onigashima. The Marine on the other end of the den mushi's voice was trembling. Just now, Kaido. He transformed into a dragon and flew away. Sengoku frowned. Kaido leaving Onigashima isn't exactly urgent intelligence, is it? But Marshal, his flight path, is exactly where Whitebeard and Redhead are planning to meet. The office fell into a deathly silence. Immediately afterward, the Navy officer added hastily, and he's not alone. That demon child Lin is on Kaido's head. Zhang Guo felt the veins on his forehead bulge and a migraine flare up on the spot. Kaido and Lin, the demon child. Garp, who had been silently munching on a senbei rice cracker, spat it out upon hearing this. Wahahata. That bastard Kaido, is he taking his son to a Yonko, 4 emperors, gathering? This is hilarious. Even his laughter carried a hint of solemnity. Grandma Crane sighed. This is no longer a simple meeting, it's a blatant provocation. Kizaru whistled. Hey, things are getting interesting, a meeting of the 3 emperors. And with a mini-emperor along. Akinu's face was so dark it could drip water. We absolutely cannot let them succeed. The balance of the world. Balance? Sengoku slammed his fist on the table, sending documents flying everywhere. Balance is about to be kicked into the deep sea by these bastards. All Marines near Whitebeard and Shanks maintain maximum vigilance. closely monitor the movements of the meeting between the two emperors. No, the three emperors. His head was buzzing. This is a nightmare. The meeting of two Yonko is already troublesome enough, but Kaido also has to bring his little monster son to cause trouble. This is going to plunge the world into chaos. A new world. The Whitebeard pirate's flagship, the Moby Dick, sailed on the turbulent sea like a moving island. Not far away, the Redfuss of the red-haired pirates was sailing in, cutting through the waves. As a small boat was lowered from the Redfords, carrying Shanks and several key personnel, and slowly approached the Moby Dick, the atmosphere on deck became extremely tense. Shanks, with his red hair and black cloak, stepped onto the deck of the Moby Dick with one hand on his famous sword, Griffin, at his waist. His expression was calm, but the invisible aura of dominance emanating from him caused even the elite members of the Whitebeard pirates to fall or retreat one after another. Gurilalalala. Whitebeard's signature laugh emanated from his enormous throne. He was a burly man, connected to various medical instruments, but his sharp, eagle-like eyes were fixed on Shanks. Red-haired brat, you actually dared to get on my ship. Seeing your face makes my scars ache. Whitebeard, Shanks' voice was calm and steady, tinged with respect yet undeniably firm. I'm here today to talk to you about Ace. And Blackbeard. I hope you will recall Ace. If this continues, it could lead to disaster. The white-bearded man tightened his grip on the Naginata, and a chilling aura filled the air. Red-haired brat, are you trying to teach me how to do things? The two emperors' gazes met in the air. The invisible Conqueror's Haki clashed violently, producing a crackling sound that made the hull of the Moby Dick groan. You've heard of Whitebeard, Lin the demon child of the Beast's pirates, right? At such a young age, a 3 billion bounty. Even Blackbeard once fell into his hands. In my judgment, Blackbeard desperately needs to become stronger, and Ace will be his target. So I hope you'll reconsider and let Ace come back. The white-bearded man narrowed his eyes. What if I say no? Clang. Red-haired Shanks drew his sword. Then I'll have to have a good talk with you. Faced with such provocation, Whitebeard acted swiftly, grabbing the Naginata. It seemed that an unprecedented battle was about to erupt between the two sides. Sudden. Hey, look at the sky. Suddenly, a cry of surprise came from the observation deck, breaking the tense atmosphere. Everyone looked up at the same time. The white-bearded, red-haired man also quickly turned his head to look. In the dim sky, a huge black shadow came, blotting out the sun. It was an oriental dragon covered in bluish-green scales, with eyes burning with flames, and its gaping maw could swallow a warship whole. That's Marco's pupils contracted sharply. A dragon, Yasop exclaimed in surprise. It's Kaido of the Beasts. Ben Beckman's tone was grave. Why is he here? The azure dragon let out a deafening roar, the sound waves sweeping across the sea and creating towering waves. Kaido, Whitebeard roared like thunder, his Naginata pointing skyward. You bastard! What are you doing here? Shanks also looked up, his brow furrowed. Wait, there's another figure above Kaido's head. The terrifying dragon circled once in the air, its enormous form casting a suffocating shadow over both pirate ships. Then it slowly descended and hovered in midair between the two ships. Followed by. The pirates on both ships saw that figure. On top of Kaido's huge, ferocious dragon head stood a tiny little boy wearing open-crotch pants. He was exquisitely handsome, with a pair of large, dark eyes that darted around. It doesn't fit Kaido's art style at all. That is. A member of the Whitebeard pirates pointed at Lin on the dragon's head, his eyes wide. The demon child. Lucky Roo exclaimed excitedly, taking a big bite of roasted meat. 3 billion berries. It really is him. Jozu grumbled. So that's the brat who defeated Doflamingo and Tesoro. He's even smaller than I imagined. Shanks stared sharply at Lin on the dragon's head. He had read the reports and the bounty notice. But seeing this legendary demon child riding on Kaido's head like a horse was such a powerful visual impact. Chapter 41. A fierce battle is about to break out. Susanoo blocks a sword strike from Shanks. Kaido lowered his massive dragon head slightly, his fiery eyes first glancing at Shanks before turning to Whitebeard. A deafening burst of laughter exploded across the sea like rolling thunder. Red-haired brat. White-bearded old man. What? You're not welcoming me. Kaido's voice was rough and domineering, filled with an arrogant and overbearing demeanor. I'm bringing my son out to see the world. I want him to see what the 4 emperors look like, and just how different he is from me. As Kaido spoke, his massive dragon head deliberately shook, gesturing towards Lin above him. Lin still had that delicate, harmless appearance, his big, dark eyes curiously surveying the 2 huge pirate ships below and everyone on board. This statement came out. Whether it was the captains of the Whitebeard pirates or the executives of the red-haired pirates, they were all dumbfounded. Marco's mouth twitched. Ben Beckman, with a cigar in his mouth, looked speechless. Yasopp opened his mouth, as if to say something, but in the end it turned into a low, absurd fuck. Broaden your horizons. Taking my son to broaden his horizons. What do you take the meeting of the 4 emperors for? Is it a street circus performance? Or is it just a day trip to the zoo? This reason is absolutely outrageous. Kaido. The white-bearded man's aged, yet still majestic roar was like a volcanic eruption, shaking the entire Moby Dick. His massive body abruptly rose from the throne, the medical equipment connected to him blaring a piercing alarm, but he paid no heed. A pair of hawk-like eyes stared intently at Kaido, his anger almost bursting forth. You bastard! This is my ship. And you red-haired brat, the white-bearded man turned to Shanks, his anger only growing stronger. What do you 2 think this place is? An amusement park. Get the hell out of here now. Right now. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. A terrifying pressure erupted from the white-bearded man, sweeping across the area like a tangible tsunami. The air itself seemed to thicken at that moment. Some of the weaker pirates were so overwhelmed by this pressure that they foamed at the mouth and fainted. The white-bearded man's chest heaved violently, clearly indicating that he was genuinely enraged. 2 Yonko arrived uninvited and were already on the verge of war on his ship. Now another uninvited guest has arrived, and it's none other than Kaido, that madman. This is blatant provocation. This is a trampling on his reputation as the strongest man in the world. Oh, you're welcome. Upon hearing this, Kaido showed no fear whatsoever. Instead, he became even more excited. A fierce fighting spirit burned in his enormous dragon eyes. Whitebeard, you think I'm afraid of you? Perfect. It's been a long time since I've stretched my muscles. Today I'll show you if I've regressed over the years. Kaido roared, his enormous dragon body tumbling through the air, stirring up the wind and clouds. The terrifying aura clashed violently with the white-bearded man's oppressive presence in midair. Crackling sounds. In the air, it seemed as if countless invisible bolts of lightning were flashing, emitting ear-piercing explosions. The sea surface was as if it had been boiled, with towering waves rising up. Finished. This is completely over. Two Yonko are about to engage in an unprecedented melee in this sea area. At this critical moment, suddenly, call out. A red blade of light, incredibly fast and fierce, slashed out from the white-bearded ship without warning. The target is Kaido's giant dragon head, suspended in midair. Who is it? Everyone stared intently. Everyone was surprised. It was Shanks who made his move. He was the first to break this delicate balance. He showed mercy with this strike. They didn't unleash a full-force attack like the divine evasion. Instead, it deliberately toned down its Conqueror's Haki and armament Haki. Only 5/10 of the force was used. He knew very well that such force wouldn't break through Kaido's defenses, but it could serve as a sufficient warning. Redhead, you want to challenge me too? Kaido's eyes narrowed, clearly not expecting Shanks to suddenly attack him. Just then, the all-destroying red blade of light was about to strike Kaido's dragon head squarely. In the blink of an eye, a small figure suddenly appeared in the path that the blade of light was bound to take. It's Lin, the demon child. His small figure hovered in midair, faced with that terrifying slash that would make any strong person tremble. He remained as calm and composed as ever. However, a strange crimson hue quietly appeared in his dark eyes. A blood-red kaleidoscope slowly rotates. Next second, buzz. A huge, ominous blue skeleton emerged, completely enveloping his small body. Susanoo. Boom. Shank's terrifying slash, powerful enough to split mountains and cleave seas, struck the blue skeleton squarely. A violent explosion filled the entire sky and sea. Sparks fly. The terrifying aftershocks of energy transformed into visible shockwaves, spreading wildly in all directions. The Moby Dick and Redford were violently shaken by the aftershocks, as if they might capsize at any moment. The pirates on the ship were staggering and screaming in alarm. However, the blue skeletal arm, though riddled with spiderweb-like cracks, collapsed and dissipated on the spot. But it did block it in the end. They completely and forcefully blocked Shank's earth-shattering strike. What? It actually blocked the red-haired boss's blade. What kind of tactic is this? What is that blue skull? What's going on? That blue skull thing has grown back. What terrifying defense. Whether it's the members of the Whitebeard pirates, the executives of the red-haired pirates, or Whitebeard and Shanks themselves, or even Kaido. Everyone couldn't help but show expressions of shock. Really? The rumors are true. The 30 billion yuan bounty is true. This bizarre and terrifying defensive technique alone. Doflamingo and the Golden Emperor Tesoro were both defeated by this little guy in open crotch pants, so there was no doubt about it. Ida, to my father, make your move. Bad guy. I want to challenge you. Chapter 42, Yasop's Wrathful Strike. The special beam cannon makes its debut. Ooh, 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 ooh. Did you hear that? My son is challenging you. Kaido's triumphant, maniacal laughter echoed through the sky. His huge dragon head rubbed against Lin's little face, and drool almost dripped down. Lin felt a little itchy from the rough dragon scales rubbing against him, and impatiently reached out his small hand to push away Kaido's big face that was leaning in. Then his dark, pure eyes swept over the Whitebeard pirates and the red-haired pirates below, who were locked in a tense standoff. The tiny figure hovered above Kaido's ferocious dragon head, completely out of place with the tense and deadly atmosphere around it. His pink little mouth opened slightly, and his childish voice rang out clearly in everyone's ears. Ida. Lin stretched out his chubby little finger and tapped the white beard, then tapped the red-haired Shanks. You, and the people on your ship. He paused, tilting his head slightly, as if considering his words. Except for you two old guys. Others, come out whenever you want. Hit me. 4 chances. I'll lose once. Let's go. The captains of the Whitebeard pirates, Marco, Jozu, Vista, all had grim expressions. The red-haired pirates executives, including Ben Beckman, Yasop, and Lucky Roo, were gritting their teeth in hatred. Arrogant. Arrogant. Just as arrogant as Kaido. Kaido. Whitebeard's thunderous roar finally shattered the eerie silence. Is this how you raise your son? Let him run wild on my ship. You really think I wouldn't dare to kill you? Whitebeard was truly enraged. His anger surged to the top of his head. In his life, what storms haven't he weathered? But a little kid in open-crotch pants pointed his finger at him and challenged his entire group, even offering him 4 chances. This is an absolute disgrace. Shanks's expression also darkened, and the veins on his hand, which was gripping the hilt of Griffin's sword, bulged slightly. Kaido, take your son and leave. Shank's voice was cold and devoid of any emotion. You are not welcome here. That was just a warning. If you continue this nonsense, I will show you no mercy. Upon hearing this, Kaido not backed down, but became even more excited. Ora ra ra ra. Scared. Red-haired brat. White-bearded old man. What? You're afraid to even take on a child's challenge. Do you really have no trust in your subordinates? Are they really incapable of even dealing with a child? Kaido's words, which added fuel to the fire, made Whitebeard and Shank's expressions even more unpleasant. Just then, Captain, let me teach this arrogant brat a lesson. A figure suddenly darted out from the red-haired pirates group. It's Lockheed Martin. He had previously delivered a letter to Whitebeard, but Lin snatched it away, which made him depressed for a long time. Just now, this is a great opportunity to prove myself. Lockster, come back. Ben Beckman's expression changed, and he shouted sharply. But it was too late. Rockstar had already rushed to the center of the deck, pointing at Lin, who was hovering in midair, and roared, Kid, don't think you're so great just because you defeated 2 Shichibuka. Today I'll show you the power of a Yonko pirate crew. He hadn't finished speaking. Lin glanced at him calmly with her dark eyes. There was no anger, no disdain, as if he were looking at an insignificant ant on the roadside. Next second, Lin's right pupil suddenly contracted. A crimson kaleidoscope appeared, spinning rapidly. Amaterasu. Puff. A cluster of pitch-black flames appeared out of nowhere on Lockster's shoulder. Ah! A piercing scream, so shrill it was inhuman, instantly echoed through the sky. Lockster was like a torch that had been set ablaze, rolling wildly on the deck and howling in agony. The black flames, like maggots clinging to bones, could not be extinguished even slightly, no matter how much he patted them or rubbed them against the ground. Instead, it burned even more fiercely. Lockster. The members of the red-haired pirates were shocked and rushed forward. Water. Quickly, bring me water. Something's wrong. This fire is strange. Water can't put it out. Use Haki. Cover it with armament Haki. It's useless. It's completely useless. What about sea stone? Try sea stone. Sea stone is useless. How is this possible? What kind of ability is this? Yasop, Raki Luke, and others were in a panic, trying every possible method. The water evaporated instantly when the bucket was poured on it. If you try to swat it with your clothes, the clothes will burn to ashes. Some even tried to use armament Haki to block it, but the black flames seem to have a life of their own, directly penetrating the Haki defense and continuing to burn Rockstar's body. A foul stench of burning flesh filled the air. Lockstar's screams grew weaker and weaker. He was about to die. What kind of flame is this? Marco of the Whitebeard Pirates looked extremely grave. He is a user of the Phoenix fruit, and his control over fire is unmatched. But he had never seen such bizarre and domineering black flames. The other members of the Whitebeard Pirates were equally astonished. "Get out of the way." Ben Beckman growled and pushed through the crowd. His eyes were sharp as an eagle's, fixed on the ominous black flames on Lockstar's body. An incomparably powerful Conqueror's Haki, as if it were a tangible substance, pressed down fiercely on the ball of black flames. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The originally arrogant black flames began to shrink gradually after coming into contact with Ben Beckman's Conqueror's Haki. It works, Yasop's eyes lit up. Soon, under the influence of Conqueror's Haki, the black flames finally went out. After, Lockstar was charred black and emitting blue smoke. He lay sprawled on the deck like a lump of mud, barely breathing, and on his last legs. Silence fell once again on the deck. Everyone stared at the tiny, exquisitely beautiful figure suspended in midair, their eyes filled with indescribable apprehension and fear. At a glance, just a glance, this almost killed a pirate with a bounty of nearly 100 million on the spot. This bizarre and powerful ability is simply unheard of. Lin's small face still held that calm and composed expression. His dark eyes darted around, and he spoke in a childish voice. "That doesn't count. It was a gift. Everyone sent. You call this a gift? They almost burned someone to death, and you're telling me this was a freebie. In reality, it's because Lockstar is too weak. It doesn't meet any of the system tasks at all. So the only option is to include it." Upon hearing this, the faces of the red-haired pirates instantly turned ashen. Especially the Yasop. Seeing his brother's miserable state and hearing Lin's nonchalant, even disdainful, words, the anger in his chest surged to his head. "You brat!" Yasop roared, his eyes, which always held a hint of mockery, now bloodshot. He suddenly raised the long-barreled flintlock pistol in his hand, pointing the muzzle directly at Lin. "You're asking for it." 100-shot silver bullet. Bang, 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 bang. Eh, eh. A series of rapid gunshots rang out like popping beans. In an instant, hundreds of specially made bullets, gleaming with armament Haki and Conqueror's Haki, pierced the air with terrifying force that could tear everything apart and rained down on Lin like a storm. Every bullet contains the power to pierce through steel. As they came, one after another, when they are lined up and connected to form a bullet line, the destructive power they generate is so exaggerated that even the 4 Emperors-level powerhouses dare not underestimate it. Lend. Upon seeing this, Kaido's enormous dragon eyes flashed with anxiety. He could certainly see how terrifying this move was, although Lin has that eerie blue skull protecting him. The strength of Yasop's move is clearly greater than the red hare's previous strike. The blue skull probably can't withstand it. However, faced with this overwhelming barrage of bullets and water, Lin's small figure remained suspended in midair, neither dodging nor avoiding. However, he slowly extended a chubby index finger. A tiny, insignificant purple light shone from the tip of the index finger. The light was initially very faint, like a firefly in the dark. But the next moment, eh, eh, an indescribable, heart-pounding surge of terrifying energy suddenly erupted from Lin's fingertips. The purple light spot expanded, rotated, and condensed rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. The spiraling energy, carrying an aura of destruction, was compressed wildly. Everyone felt an unprecedented sense of oppression. It was as if an invisible hand had gripped their throats, making it hard for them to breathe. Whether it was Whitebeard, Shanks, or the top officers on their ship, their expressions all changed drastically at this moment. They sensed a terrifying power emanating from those tiny fingertips, a power that threatened their lives. Special. Light kill. Cannon. The words, though spoken in a childish voice, carried an undeniable declaration, escaping from Lin's small mouth. Chapter 43. One shot kills Yasop, shocking the entire audience. Next second. Call out. A purple spiral beam of light, condensed to its extreme and exuding an aura of destruction, suddenly shot out from the tip of Lin's chubby index finger. Its speed surpasses everyone's dynamic vision. The beam of light collided violently in midair with the bullet water line fired by Yasop, which consisted of hundreds of specially made bullets wrapped with Conqueror's Haki and armament Haki. There was no earth-shattering noise. Not even a decent sound was uttered. The bullets, powerful enough to pierce steel and tear apart giant ships, melted, disintegrated, and annihilated silently the moment they came into contact with the purple spiral beam of light, just like ice and snow under the sun. They couldn't even put up the slightest resistance, completely crushing everything in its path. A complete and utter crushing defeat. What? The ferocity and rage on Yasop's face were instantly replaced by boundless horror. He watched helplessly as his prized skill proved as fragile as paper before that eerie purple beam of light. After consuming all his bullets, the purple death ray remained undiminished in power and speed, still shooting straight toward his face. The shadow of death instantly enveloped Yasop's entire body. Not good. Shanks and Ben Beckman's expressions changed drastically at the same time. They wanted to rush to the rescue, but it was too late. Too fast. That beam of light was incredibly fast. Yasop's pupils contracted to their maximum, and every hair on his body stood on end. In the face of life and death, he unleashed all his potential. Armament Haki, harden. He crossed his arms to protect his chest, pushing his armament Haki to its limit. The jet-black armament Haki covered his arms like a materialized armor. He even pushed his observation Haki to its limit, attempting to predict the trajectory of the beam and evade it. However, useless. The purple spiral beam of light slammed into his arms. Along with terrifying force, it instantly swept over Yasop's entire body. Boom! Yasop felt as if he had been violently struck by an invisible locomotive. His body crashed through the deck. Go inside the ship's hull. Finally, it was washed into the sea. Glug glug. A series of bubbles emerged. Immediately afterwards. Boom! A violent roar suddenly erupted from beneath the sea. A huge column of water shot into the sky, reaching a height of tens of meters. The seawater poured down like rain. The entire sea surface churned violently because of the explosion. Dead. A deathly silence fell upon the Moby Dick and the Redford. You could hear a pin drop. Everyone was petrified. Their mouths were agape, their eyes wide, and their faces were filled with disbelief and utter horror. Whether it was the captains of the Whitebeard pirates or the executives of the red-haired pirates, they were all like ducks with their necks being choked, unable to make a sound. Even Edward Newgate, Whitebeard, and Shanks, Red Hair, two of the 4 emperors who reign over the New World, were shocked, their pupils dilating in disbelief, their faces filled with solemnity and astonishment. They stared intently at the sea where the explosion had just occurred, then glanced at Lin, who was still suspended in midair with that same delicate, harmless appearance. One move. It was just one move. Yasop, the red-haired pirate's top sniper, and a notorious pirate with a bounty of hundreds of millions. Just like that. We lost. And the defeat was so complete. So humiliating. Oh, Lolo. Kaido's massive dragon head paused slightly, then burst into an even more triumphant and arrogant laugh. But deep within his dragon eyes, which burned with flames, a profound sense of astonishment also flashed. This kid has gotten stronger again. He had never even seen that move before. It was another new move he had just mastered. This rate of growth is far, far greater than his back then. Yospasm. Quick! Save them! The members of the red-haired pirates were the first to react, rushing towards the ship with cries of alarm. Soon, soaked to the bone, with charred arms and barely breathing, Yasop was pulled from the sea by Raki Lu and Ben Beckman. Cough. Yasop coughed violently, spitting out mouthfuls of seawater mixed with blood and foam, his face as pale as paper. He immediately grabbed his gun and struggled to stand up, but his body was in excruciating pain, and he couldn't muster any strength. I haven't lost yet, Yasop gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with resentment and anger, glaring at Lin. Kid, if you've got the guts, come again. How could he, the sniper of the red-haired pirates, be defeated by a little kid wearing open-crotch pants? If word gets out, where will he put his face? Yosbumi, that's enough. Ben Beckman held him down, his voice low and calm. He glanced at Lin, his expression complex. Then he took a deep breath and said in a deep voice to Lin, who was suspended in midair, "We concede defeat in this match." Upon hearing this, Yasop's eyes widened suddenly. Beckman. You. Shut up, Ben Beckman hissed, his eyes sharp. A loss is a loss. Being outmatched is no excuse. Yasop opened his mouth, but ultimately lowered his head unwillingly. What a shame. This is absolutely the greatest humiliation of his life. Ding. Congratulations, host, for defeating a character with combat power of at least the 7 warlords of the sea, Yosofo, a senior officer of the red-haired pirates. Mission 1. Defeat 4 characters of Shichibukai caliber or higher, 3-4. The system's cold notification sounded in Lin's mind. He blinked his big, dark eyes. 3 more are needed. Chapter 44. The wound from the special beam cannon is unable to heal. Kaido's triumphant laughter, reaching its peak, once again resounded through the sky, causing ripples to spread across the sea. His enormous dragon head nuzzled Lin's delicate face affectionately, his fiery dragon eyes filled with undisguised pride and arrogance. Did you see that? Red-haired brat. White-bearded old man. This is my son. Your officials are utterly insignificant in front of my son. Kaido's arrogant and domineering voice was like a series of resounding slaps to the faces of everyone in the Whitebeard pirates and the red-haired pirates. It's burning hot. The white-bearded old face, weathered by time, was so somber it seemed to drip water. The captains behind him, including Marco, Jaws, and Vista, all had livid faces, and their fists were clenched so tightly they cracked. What a shame. This is absolutely the greatest humiliation the Whitebeard pirates have ever suffered since their inception. Red-haired Shanks's expression was equally grim. Although he has a carefree personality, one can imagine the anger in his heart when he watched his companions being defeated so easily and mocked by Kaido to his face. Kaido, don't get too cocky. Just then, a voice, tinged with a hint of languor, yet exuding unwavering determination, rang out from among the white-beard pirates. Marco pushed through the crowd and slowly walked out. He had a blonde, pineapple-shaped haircut, half-open, sleepy eyes, and his hands in his pockets, looking somewhat nonchalant. But at this moment, his eyes, which always seemed somewhat weary, gleamed with an unprecedented sharpness. "Dad." Marco looked at the white-bearded man, his tone calm. "Let me do it." The white-bearded man looked at his most trusted son, a complex emotion flashing in his sharp, eagle-like eyes. He certainly knew Marco's strength. As the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates' First Division, Marco the Phoenix is definitely among the top-tier Yonko commanders. But the eerie black flames and the incredibly powerful purple beams from Lin had left a deep impression on him. "Be careful, Marco." Whitebeard finally nodded and gave a low, admonishing remark. "Don't worry, Dad." Marco grinned, revealing a set of white teeth, his eyes brimming with confidence. He turned around and looked at Lin, who was hovering above Kaido's head, his sleepy eyes slightly narrowed. "Kid, I have to admit, you are indeed very strong. But you're still too green to cause trouble on our Whitebeard pirates' territory." Before the words were even finished, "Call." A dazzling blue flame suddenly erupted from Marco's body. The flames were not scorching. Instead, they carried a cool, healing quality. His arms instantly transformed into a pair of enormous blue flame wings. Underfoot, sharp bird claws appeared. "Phoenix form. Take this, kid." Marco gave a low shout, and his wings flapped suddenly. His figure vanished from the spot in an instant. Next second, he appeared in front of Lin, as if he had teleported. Fast. Too fast. It was so fast that even many experts present could only barely catch a glimpse of a blue afterimage. So fast. The members of the red-haired pirates couldn't help but glance at each other. As expected of the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates' First Division. This speed alone is enough to make them stand out from the crowd. Marco's right foot, transformed into a bird's claw, was wrapped in dense armament Haki and blue regeneration flames, and with a terrifying force that tore through the air, it kicked fiercely toward Lin's head. Phoenix Seal. That kick was powerful and heavy, enough to kick a small mountain apart. Even a naval admiral would be sent flying by this kick. Faced with this thunderous blow, Lin remained calm and composed. However, a strange crimson light reappeared in his dark eyes. The kaleidoscope slowly rotates. Eh, eh. The enormous blue skeleton reappeared, completely enveloping his small body. Susanoo. Bang. Marco's powerful kick, capable of splitting rocks and shattering monuments, landed squarely on the blue skeletal arm. A deafening roar echoed through the sky once again. A terrifying energy shockwave spread wildly in all directions. Click! A crisp cracking sound suddenly rang out. Several clear cracks appeared on the seemingly indestructible blue skeletal arm. A crack has appeared. As expected of Whitebeard's strongest lieutenant, the power of his attack is comparable to that of the red-haired boss. The red-haired pirates' officers all showed expressions of surprise. As expected of Captain Marco. That's incredible. It seems that Brat's defenses aren't as strong as I thought. The members of the Whitebeard pirates erupted in thunderous cheers. Kaido's enormous dragon eyes narrowed slightly. This pineapple head is really something. Marco landed a successful blow, a sharp glint flashing in his eyes. With another flap of his wings, he deftly flipped his body in midair, and his other claw, wreathed in blue flames and armament Haki, kicked fiercely at the crack in Susanoo with the force of thunder. He wants to press his advantage. Let's go all out and completely shatter this turtle shell. However, just as his attack was about to hit again, Lin glanced at him calmly with her crimson sharing and eyes. Amaterasu. Puff. A cluster of jet-black flames appeared out of nowhere on Marco's wings, which were burning with blue flames. That trick again. Captain Marco, watch out. The members of the Whitebeard pirates immediately gasped in surprise. They witnessed the horrific state of Lockstill firsthand. Whitebeard's eyes narrowed, and his Conqueror's Haki began to surge within him, ready to dispel the eerie black flames at any moment. Everyone thought that Marco was going to be in trouble this time. But they faced those black flames that clung to their bones like maggots. Marco showed no sign of panic. He didn't even glance at the black flames on his wings. Suddenly, his wings, which were burning with blue flames, shook violently. Scoff! A truly astonishing scene unfolded. The part of the wing that was scorched by black flames was actually physically separated by him, just like a gecko shedding its tail. The small piece of flesh, burning with black flames, fell from midair with a wisp of blue smoke into the sea and sizzled before quickly going out. At the point where Marco's wing was broken, blue flames of regeneration burned fiercely. New flesh and blood were growing rapidly, visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, his wings were restored to their original state, intact and undamaged. It was as if everything that had just happened was just an illusion. The black fire was ineffective. Captain Marco's method of completely countering that kid. Kid, have you witnessed the power of the Phoenix? This is the strength of the Whitebeard pirates. The crew of the Whitebeard pirates were overjoyed. The members of the red-haired pirates all looked enlightened. It turns out that besides Conqueror's Haki, physical cutting is also a way to avoid black flame. But very few people can actually regenerate after being cut. Lin the demon child isn't very lucky. And just then, we ran into Marco the Phoenix. This kid, he's going to run into trouble. Lin raised a small eyebrow. This pineapple head is really something. It's amazing that he was able to neutralize Amaterasu in this way. But his dark eyes darted around, and his small index finger slowly rose again. At the fingertip, a tiny bit of purple energy began to condense. Look at this starting stance. Marco's lips curled into a smile. They showed no sign of backing down. As an immortal phoenix, he is least afraid of this kind of penetrating attack. Not to mention Lin's fingertip cannon. He was not afraid of even Admiral Kizaru's laser. That tactic won't work on Captain Marco. That's a phoenix, a mythical beast. Haven't you seen the difference yet, kid? This technique might work against Yasop, but against Captain Marco. Dream on. The people below, whether from the Whitebeard pirates or the red-haired pirates, all remained calm and composed. No one knew better than them how powerful Marco's regenerative abilities were. Even if such a penetrating wound hits, so what? Unless there are restrictions related to sea stone. Otherwise, it's not worth mentioning. Special. Light kill. Cannon. Lin ignored them. The announcement, delivered in a childlike voice, yet carrying an aura of destruction, rang out once more. Call out. A purple spiral beam of light, condensed to its extreme, suddenly shot out from Lin's fingertips. Almost at the same time, Marco also kicked Susanoo hard. Next moment, Susanoo completely collapsed. Marco's chest was also pierced through by the special beam cannon. Blood mixed with blue flames spurted out from his back. Without any hesitation, Marco quickly activated the regenerative flames within his body, attempting to repair his wounds. However, for the first time, Marco's usually somewhat languid face showed an expression of extreme terror. He was horrified to discover the wound on my chest, pierced by the purple beam, it just won't heal. Chapter 45, Whitebeard concedes defeat. Ben Beckman volunteers to fight. The blue flames of regeneration, as if encountering their nemesis, throbbed futilely at the edge of the wound, unable to stop the flow of blood or repair the pierced flesh. A strange, destructive energy lingered on the wound, constantly eroding his life force. My flames, why? Marco broke out in a cold sweat. He could clearly feel his life force rapidly draining away with his blood. He had never experienced this feeling before. The Phoenix's regenerative ability is his greatest asset and the source of his confidence to roam the new world and escape unscathed from countless powerful enemies. But now that confidence has been shattered by that little baby's single finger. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Marco tried to activate his devil fruit power again, and the blue flames surged even more fiercely, but the purple aura of destruction at the wound clung to him like a leech, making all his efforts futile. Below, the Whitebeard Pirates members, who had been cheering for Captain Marco, froze on their faces. They also realized something was wrong. Captain Marco's injury. What happened? Why hasn't it healed yet? That blue flame seems to be stopping. Panic-stricken voices rose and fell. The red-haired pirates' officers also showed expressions of surprise. Even the Phoenix's regeneration is ineffective. What exactly is that brat's attack? Rakilu forgot to even nibble on the chicken leg in his mouth. Ben Beckman, a cigar dangling from his lips, frowned, his eyes filled with seriousness. Yasop looked at the gruesome bloody hole in Marco's chest, then touched his still aching arms, feeling lingering fear. How evil! The methods of this demon child Lin were completely beyond their comprehension. Iya! Just then, Lin's childish voice rang out again. His dark, pure eyes calmly gazed at Marco, who was pale and swaying in midair. Then his chubby little index finger slowly lifted up once again. At the fingertips, that heart-pounding purple energy began to condense, rotate, and compress once more. Even more concise than before. Even more dangerous. You're coming again. Marco's pupils contracted sharply, and a chill ran from the soles of his feet straight to the top of his head. His first instinct was to dodge, to escape this death zone. However, the excruciating pain in his chest and the constant loss of his life force made his movements extremely slow. Just then, the destructive purple beam of light was about to be unleashed once more. Stop! A roar as loud as thunder suddenly came from the Moby Dick. It's a Whitebeard. His burly body trembled slightly with anger and worry. His hawk-like eyes were fixed on Lin, bloodshot and piercing. Whitebeard took a step forward, and terrifying Conqueror's Haki swept out like a tsunami, attempting to interfere with Lin. Whitebeard, are you trying to renege on your debt? Kaido's Conqueror's Haki struck instantly. Protect Lin firmly. The two sides are confronting each other remotely. The terrifying impact of Conqueror's Haki caused the world to change color. Dad, I can still fight. Marco gritted his teeth and said firmly. Whitebeard took a deep breath, his chest heaving violently. This match. The white-bearded man's voice was hoarse and deep, each word carrying immense weight. We admit defeat. Ugh. Shocking. When the word surrender came out of the mouth of the world's strongest man, Whitebeard, the entire sea seemed to freeze. Time stands still at this moment. Both the members of the Whitebeard pirates and the executives of the red-haired pirates frowned. Dad. No, we won't give up. Dad, let me do it. I'll teach this brat a lesson. I'll go. I'll risk my life to make this brat get what he deserves. The members of the Whitebeard pirates gritted their teeth. Jaws clenched his massive fists, making a cracking sound, and roared. The captains, including Vista, also volunteered for the mission, giving in to a little kid wearing open crotch pants. This is worse than killing them. No matter what, we must keep fighting. Dad. Marco wanted to say something more, but the white-bearded man simply raised his hand to stop him. Face and son's life. He would rather choose the latter. Whitebeard. Red-haired Shanks looked at Whitebeard with a complex expression. He could understand Whitebeard's decision. That kid's strength has indeed exceeded their expectations. If the fight continues, Marco is likely to be in grave danger. Whitebeard. He actually admitted defeat, Yassop muttered to himself, his shock beyond measure, while the humiliation of losing to a little brat seemed to fade considerably. Ben Beckman took a deep drag on his cigar, slowly exhaled a smoke ring, and his eyes became increasingly profound. The purple energy at Lin's fingertips slowly dissipated. Ding! Congratulations, host, for defeating a Shichibuka-level fighter, Marco, the 1st Division commander of the Whitebeard Pirates. Mission 2. Defeat 4 characters of Shichibukai caliber or higher, 3-4. The system's cold notification sound rang in Lin's mind once again. 2 more are needed. Kaido's deafening, triumphant laughter finally broke the oppressive atmosphere. His enormous dragon head rubbed against Lin's little face frantically, drooling almost all over the white-bearded boat. Did you hear that? White-bearded old man. Red-haired brat. My son. He's invincible. Your prized vice president is nothing but a joke in front of my son. Oh ho ho ho. Every word Kaido uttered was like a sharp knife, stabbing deeply into the hearts of the Whitebeard pirates. The white-bearded man's face was ashen, and the veins on his forehead bulged, but he ultimately held back. If you're not as skilled as others, there's nothing more to say. Kaido, haven't you caused enough trouble? Just as Kaido was getting carried away and preparing to continue his taunts, a calm yet undeniably powerful voice came from the red-haired pirate's ship. Ben Beckman, with a cigar in his mouth, slowly walked out from the crowd. The oddly shaped rifle in his hand had somehow appeared before his eyes. The gun barrel was slightly lowered, but the faint but palpable killing intent sent a chill down the spines of everyone present. This farce should come to an end. Ben Beckman's gaze calmly swept over Kaido, finally settling on Lin's small figure. His eyes were sharp as knives, as if they could see through everything. When Ben Beckman stepped forward and assumed a fighting stance, both the Whitebeard pirates and the red-haired pirate's own crew were greatly surprised. Mr. Beckman, the first mate is going to make a move. My God. Mr. Beckman is actually going to take action himself. The officers of the red-haired pirates all wore expressions of extreme shock. It's important to know that while their first mate, Ben Beckman, usually participates in battles, it's extremely rare for him to step forward and specifically target someone like this. Not to mention their current opponent is just a little kid who's only a year old. This is enough to show how terrifying the threat level of this devilish child Lin was in Beckman's mind. The first mate of the red-haired boy, Kaido's smile faded, his dragon eyes narrowing slightly as he sized up Ben Beckman. He was well aware, of course, that this man was no ordinary person. Marco Jozu, and the others from the Whitebeard pirates were also invigorated. They are well aware of Ben Beckman's abilities. He is definitely one of the top lieutenants. Some even say that his strength is already very close to that of the 4 emperors. On par with Shanks, his intervention might actually stop this little monster. Ida. Lin became even more excited and overjoyed. Ben Beckman's strength is far beyond that of a Shichibukai. Furthermore, they can reach the general level standard stipulated by the system. In other words, the second and third tasks can both be completed together. Chapter 46, Susanoo is destroyed by a single shot. Cheap defense, infinite Susanoo. Ben Beckman, a cigar dangling from his lips, surrounded by swirling smoke. His deep eyes calmly gazed at Lin, who was suspended above Kaido's dragon head. Little brat. He spoke, his voice not loud, but carrying an undeniable composure. You make the first move, so that people won't say, I'm taking advantage of your young age. These words caused an uproar in the room. Mr. Beckman actually let that brat make the first move. That's too confident. However, this is actually the vice-captain of our red-haired pirates. The members of the red-haired pirates wore expressions that were both surprised and taken for granted. On the Whitebeard pirates' side, Jozu, Vista, and the others also had furrowed brows. This Ben Beckman is more troublesome than they imagined. Kaido's enormous dragon eyes narrowed slightly, a hint of amusement flashing across them. Oh ho ho ho. That red-haired brat's second in command, quite the boastful fellow. Lin blinked her big, dark eyes, her small face devoid of any extra expression. He didn't seem to care about the other party's disdain, or rather, in his view, it didn't count as disdain at all. Since you've let me make the first move, then I won't be polite. In Lin's right eye, a blood-red kaleidoscope quietly appeared in the pupil and spun rapidly. Amaterasu. Puff. A cluster of jet-black flames, radiating an ominous aura, appeared out of nowhere on Ben Beckman's shoulder. The speed and the angle were so sharp that it was impossible to defend against. That black fire trick again. Mr. Beckman, watch out. A gasp of surprise rippled through the red-haired pirates' ranks. The devastation at Lockster is still fresh in our minds. However, Ben Beckman's face remained completely expressionless in the face of the eerie black flames. He didn't even look the black flames on his shoulder. He simply raised his right hand, which was holding the rifle. An invisible, yet incredibly powerful Conqueror's Haki suddenly erupted from his body. That domineering aura, condensed to the point of being tangible, precisely covered the black flames on his shoulder. Sizzle. A soft sound, like ice and snow melting, rang out. The black flames that were originally arrogant and domineering, which even Marco's flame of regeneration could not completely extinguish, were like a nemesis to Ben Beckman's Conqueror's Haki. They quickly weakened and then went out completely. Not even a spark remained. The whole process was smooth and effortless. It was as if he had simply dusted off his shoulders. The intensity of this Conqueror's Haki. As expected, it's second only to Shanks. Beckman has rarely made a move in the past, but there are many rumors about how strong he is. Seeing him today, I can confirm that his reputation is well-deserved. With just this Conqueror's Haki, Beckman's strength is by no means inferior to any admiral or first mate. The Whitebeard pirates' gazes sharpened. They had all witnessed the terrifying strength of this Yonko's vice-president. Kaido's enormous dragon eyes narrowed slightly. This Ben Beckman is really something. Lin's small eyebrows twitched, almost imperceptibly. As expected of the red-haired second in command. He's way more difficult to deal with than Marco. Kid, Your little tricks won't work on me. Ben Beckman's voice remained calm, but his eyes sharpened. He slowly raised the rifle in his hand, aiming the muzzle at Lin. A chilling, bone-chilling killing intent emanated from the muzzle of the gun. Next, it's my turn. Before the words were even finished. Boom! A deafening gunshot rang out. This shot was completely different from the previous shots fired by Yasop. A specially made bullet, wrapped in jet-black armament Haki and a chilling, ghostly blue aura, shot towards Lin like a cannonball, tearing through the air with devastating force. Wherever the bullets passed, the air seemed to groan in agony, as if it could not bear the weight of the impact. That eerie blue aura exuded a terrifying aura that sent shivers down one's spine. Shadow of the Dead, the last echo of Yama. Ben Beckman's deep voice only began to ring out slowly after the gunshot. He showed no mercy in this attack. When they make a move, they go all out. Not good, Kaido's eyes widened. He could clearly feel that the power of this shot was absolutely extraordinary. The crimson color reappeared in Lin's dark eyes. Kaleidoscope sharing, spinning rapidly. Buzz! The enormous blue skeletal giant reappeared, firmly protecting Lin's small body within it. Susanoo. Boom! The terrifying bullet, wreathed in armament Haki and demonic energy, struck the blue skeletal arm squarely. A deafening roar echoed through the heavens. The terrifying energy shockwave transformed into visible ripples, spreading wildly in all directions. The Moby Dick and Redford were violently shaken by the shockwave, as if they were about to disintegrate at any moment. Snap! Snap! A crisp, piercing cracking sound suddenly rang out. To everyone's utter astonishment, that indestructible blue Susanoo arm, which even Marco's full-force attack could only leave cracks in. Actually, Ben Beckman's shot actually blasted a huge hole in it. Dense cracks, like a spider web, spread from the edge of the hole towards the entire Susanoo. Next second, boom! The entire Susanoo exploded in a thunderous roar. It transformed into countless blue specks of light and dissipated into the air. Everyone was so shocked by what they saw that their mouths were agape. That incredibly tough blue skull was blown to pieces with a single shot. Such a powerful attack, Josu's expression turned serious. His shining fruit might not be able to withstand this shot. Beckman. He's actually this strong. Marco's expression was extremely grave. He knew very well that if that shot had been aimed at him, even if he could use the flame of regeneration to repair his body, he would definitely have suffered a severe blow. Red-haired Shanks looked at his first mate, a subtle smile playing on his lips. These are his right and left arms. A deep sense of astonishment flashed in Kaido's fiery dragon eyes. This Ben Beckman. He's been keeping a low profile. Lin hovered in midair, and for the first time, a hint of surprise appeared on her small face. He could sense that in that shot just now, besides Conqueror's Haki and armament Haki, there was a third kind of power, similar to Zoro and Barrett's demon aura. Obviously, the combined power of the three forces is extremely destructive to Susanoo. This Beckman is incredibly troublesome. Kid, your turtle shell is broken. Ben Beckman's voice is devoid of any emotion. He raised his rifle again. The gun barrel was still locked on Lin. The chilling killing intent was even more intense than before. Second shot. Boom. Another deafening gunshot rang out. 3 terrifying bullets of the same power. It possesses the same earth-shattering power. It came straight for Lin's face. It looked like Lin was about to be hit directly by this shot. Suddenly, buzz. The familiar, yet despairing blue light shone once more. A brand new, intact Susanoo once again completely enveloped Lin's small body. Boom! The bullet struck Susanoo's arm again. A violent explosion resounded through the sky once again. A terrifying energy shockwave raged once again. Click! Susanoo's arm was blasted open again, riddled with cracks. But it managed to block it in the end. Although it was teetering on the brink of collapse and its light was dim, it truly blocked Ben Beckman's earth-shattering second shot. It's happened again. Recovered so quickly. How is this possible? This defense is way too overpowered. It can shatter and then instantly reappear. How can you even fight that? Both the Whitebeard pirates and the red-haired pirates looked rather grim. This unbreakable turtle shell is practically cheating. Chapter 47, is Lin going to lose? Mission complete, consumption of 8 gates reduced by 50%. Ben Beckman, with a cigar in his mouth, looked perfectly normal. It seems that this situation was anticipated. The blue skull can be summoned instantly after it shatters. But there will inevitably be a corresponding price to pay, such as consuming physical strength, mental energy, and other forms of energy. It cannot continue indefinitely. That being the case, he only needs to fire a few more shots to easily wear down this little guy. He can keep going in a battle of endurance and stamina. Ben Beckman was about to fire a third shot. Just then, Lin made a move. His crimson manger Kaido, Sheringan, was fixed on Ben Beckman. The little index finger slowly rises. At the fingertips, that heart-pounding purple energy began to condense, rotate, and compress once more. Special. Light kill. Cannon. Call out. A purple spiral beam of light, condensed to its extreme, suddenly shot out from Lin's fingertips. The target is Ben Beckman. Faced with this terrifying beam of light capable of piercing through everything. Ben Beckman, however, wore a meaningful smile. His body, like a ghost, left a faint afterimage in the spot. However, his true form had already appeared in another location, dozens of meters away. The speed was unbelievable. The special beam cannon, which was powerful enough to instantly kill Yasop and severely injure Marco, completely missed its target. It exploded into the air, in the distance, with a muffled bang. What? You dodged it. Wow, that's fast. That brat's attack, it missed. Everyone was once again speechless with astonishment. They could see clearly that Ben Beckman wasn't taking the attack head-on, but rather using his unimaginable observation, Haki, to predict Lin's attack trajectory and dodge it perfectly with astonishing speed. I see, Marco's eyes narrowed, and he suddenly realized that brat's attack power was terrifying, but his observation, Haki, seemed to be lacking. That's right, Joz realized as well. His attacks are more like lock-on attacks. Once anticipated, they easily miss. In other words, as long as you have sufficiently strong observation, Haki, and speed, you can counter him. The captains of the Whitebeard pirates all had their eyes shining, as if they had found a way to deal with Lin. On the red-haired pirate's side, the crew members were even more excited. No one knew better than them how strong the first mate's observation, Haki, was. It's not just about predicting the future. Even the extremely rare sight and hearing kill is no match for it. Ben Beckman stood firmly on the gunwale of the Redford, his rifle once again aimed at Lin. He tilted the cigar at the corner of his mouth upward, revealing a slightly mocking smile. Kid, your beam cannon can't hit me. Boom. Eh, eh. No sooner had he finished speaking than another shot was fired. The angle was tricky, aiming straight for Lin's flank. Boom! 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 The rifle in Ben Beckman's hand was like the scythe of death, spitting out deadly flames continuously. Every bullet contains the terrifying power of 3 forces combined. Every shot was incredibly accurate, aimed directly at Lin's vital points. Lin, on the other hand, summoned Susanoo time and time again. Blue skeletal giants constantly emerge under his will, only to be shattered again and again by Ben Beckman's gunfire. Boom! Crack! Bang! Explosions and shattering sounds filled the air. Blue energy fragments bloomed in the air like fireworks, then quickly dissipated. Susanoo has shattered again. That brat has been summoned again. How many times has this happened? 5 times? Or 6 times? Mr. Beckman's attacks are too sharp. That brat's defense can't withstand more than a few hits. The members of the red-haired pirates gradually lost their worries, replaced by excitement and anticipation. They could see that Ben Beckman had the upper hand. The white-beard pirates, though still looking serious, had noticed something amiss. That kid seems to be having a bit of a struggle, Vista whispered. His speed in summoning Susanoo seems to have slowed down a bit, Marco noticed as well. As they observed, a fine layer of sweat had already seeped onto Lin's delicate, pretty face. Each time he summons Susanoo, he needs to expend a considerable amount of mental and physical energy. Ben Beckman's attacks were so frequent and powerful that he had to defend himself constantly. Special beam cannon. Lin extended his little finger again, conjuring a purple spiral beam of light that shot towards Ben Beckman. However, call out. Ben Beckman once again blurred into a streak, effortlessly dodging the fatal blow. The purple beam of light missed its target again, exploding into a huge splash on the distant sea. It's no use, kid. Ben Beckman's voice carried a hint of mockery. I've completely figured out your attack pattern. Your observation, Haki, can't keep up with my speed. And with your stamina being depleted so rapidly, I'm afraid you won't be able to sustain this for long, will you? Boom! Another shot. The blue Susanoo shattered once again. Hateful. Kaido's massive dragon head, which had been so smug, now showed signs of anxiety and worry in its eyes. He could tell that Lin was in bad shape. This Ben Beckman is too difficult to deal with. That observation, Haki, was practically like it had been cheated. The power within Kaido began to stir, and he was ready to intervene at any moment. We can't let his precious son suffer here. Shanks and Whitebeard both had different expressions at this moment. Shanks wore a subtle smile, clearly very satisfied with his first mate. This farce can finally have a decent ending. Whitebeard, on the other hand, frowned deeply, secretly plotting something. This demon child Lin, while lacking in combat experience and the ability to use domineering aura, is still far inferior to veteran top-tier powerhouses like Ben Beckman. But his endless stream of tricks alone proves that he is a one-in-a-million prodigy. Within the Beasts faction, a formidable figure is about to rise to prominence. That brat is going to lose. Great job. Mr. Beckman is awesome. Let him know that the officers of a Yonko pirate crew aren't so easy to challenge. The crew of the red-haired pirates cheered with joy. Although the members of the Whitebeard pirates remained silent, they secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, this little monster is about to be subdued. Just when everyone thought the battle was about to end, in Ben Beckman's victory. Lin, who was suspended in midair and breathing slightly, suddenly raised his head. He revealed a smile that seemed to indicate a successful conspiracy. It was just a simple smile. But everyone present who saw it, including Whitebeard, Shanks, Marco, Ben Beckman, even Kaido, felt a sudden unease in their hearts. This kid seems to be about to do something extraordinary. Oh no, I have a bad feeling about this. Yasop looked tense and instinctively gripped the flintlock pistol in his hand. I can't see the future for now, but this future is probably going to be amazing. Red-haired Shanks also looked extremely solemn. What is he planning to do? For the first time, a hint of seriousness appeared on Ben Beckman's usually composed face, and alarm bells in his mind were ringing wildly at that moment. His intuition told him something was wrong. Something's very wrong. At the same time, in Lin's mind, a mechanical voice is broadcasting. Ding! Detected that the host has been engaged in a continuous battle with an admiral-level combatant, Ben Beckman, vice-captain of the red-haired pirates, for over 1 minute. Mission rewards, massive amounts of Conqueror's Haki. 8 gates energy consumption permanently reduced by 50%. Chapter 48 opens 8 doors, shattering Beckman's strongest attack with a single blow, shocking TH. Ida. Lin spoke softly. The voice was very soft, yet it sent a chill down the spines of everyone present. Next second. Boom! An indescribable, extremely violent, and terrifying aura suddenly erupted from Lin's small body. That aura was domineering. Brutality. It was filled with the will to destroy everything. The sky seemed to darken at that moment. The sea surface was as if it had been hit by millions of tons of explosives, churning and roaring wildly. The Moby Dick and Redford were violently rocked by the terrifying shockwave, their hulls groaning under the strain. What is this? What a terrifying aura. That brat. What did he do? Everyone, including Whitebeard and Shanks, had a drastic change in expression. They felt an unprecedented, suffocating sense of oppression emanating from Lin. A crimson steam rose around Lin's body, like a burning flame, completely enveloping his small figure. His skin turned blood red at a speed visible to the naked eye. The veins all over his body bulged out like writhing dragons. An aura of savagery, brutality, and destruction emanated wildly from him. 8 gates escape armor. The words, though spoken in a childish voice, carried an undeniable declaration and came from Lin's mouth. The crimson steam almost materialized. The air around Lin was distorted by this terrifying energy. What kind of ability is this? For the first time, Ben Beckman's usually composed face showed an expression of extreme shock. The 8th gate, the gate of death. Open. As the last word fell. Boom. A destructive crimson energy, beyond everyone's imagination, erupted completely from Lin's body. The crimson steam transformed into a crimson energy storm, sweeping across the heavens and earth. The clouds in the sky were mercilessly torn apart. The ocean is roaring wildly, churning up waves hundreds of meters high. Oh, Lolo. Kaido's enormous dragon eyes were wide open, filled with unbelievable ecstasy. He could sense that the power Lin was unleashing was already showing signs of surpassing his own. Buzz. Right there in this blood-red energy storm. A completely new Susanoo, unlike any before, slowly emerged. Those were no longer the blue skeletons from before. Instead, it was a blood-red, incredibly ferocious, radiating, overwhelming, demonic energy. A blood-red demon god. This crimson demon god is more solid and more imposing than the previous blue Susanoo. Its eyes burned with blood-red flames, filled with a tyrannical and murderous desire. Its body was covered with a layer of blood-red armor, engraved with strange runes. A terrifying pressure that sent shivers down one's spine emanated from the blood-red demon god, enveloping the entire sea area. What the hell is this monster? The chicken leg in Rakilu's mouth fell directly to the ground, but he didn't even notice. Yasop, Jozu, Marco, all the powerful figures at the level of Yonko's vice-commanders, felt their scalps tingle and their bodies grow cold. They sensed a terrifying power emanating from that blood-red demon god, a power capable of crushing them. Ben Beckman's pupils contracted to their maximum size. Without hesitation, he raised the rifle in his hand and poured all his domineering and ghostly aura into the barrel. World Cycle Extreme. He pulled the trigger sharply. Bang! A bullet, more terrifying than any before and imbued with his life strength, roared like a black dragon, tearing through the void and slamming into the blood-red demon god. This shot contained all his power. Its power was so great that, without exaggeration, it was enough to shatter an island. However, when this bullet, powerful enough to destroy the heavens and the earth, struck the arm of the blood-red demon god, boom! An amazing burst of light erupted. A deafening roar filled the air. However, upon closer inspection, all that could be seen on the blood-red skull was a shallow crater of moderate size, far from achieving the effect of destroying it with a single shot. What? Ben Beckman was horrified. His attack, more terrifying than any of his previous shots, couldn't even break through the crimson demon god's defenses. How is this possible? The entire room fell silent. You could hear a pin drop. Everyone stood frozen in place, as if under a spell, their faces filled with boundless horror and fear. The white-bearded man's massive body trembled slightly, and his hawk-like eyes were fixed on the blood-red demon god, his gaze filled with unprecedented solemnity. Red-haired Shanks also looked incredulous, his hand gripping the hilt of Griffin's sword, ready to draw it at any moment. Demon. Demon child. Ben Beckman uttered 2 words in a hoarse voice. He finally understood. Now I understand why this kid is called a demon child by the world. The thing before us. A blood-red giant exuding overwhelming demonic energy, like a demon descending from hell. This is the true meaning of demon child. Just then, the enormous, ferocious, blood-red demon god suddenly flickered, and then vanished into thin air. Lin's small figure reappeared in midair. His forehead was covered in sweat, and his small chest was heaving noticeably, as if he had exhausted himself. Half. The faint breathing sounded exceptionally clear on the still sea. What happened? That blood-red monster has disappeared. Could it be that Brett can't hold on? The members of the red-haired pirates were stunned at first, then their faces lit up with ecstasy. Great. I knew it. How could such a powerful move last long? He must have exhausted all his strength. Mr. Beckman. Now. Yasop shouted excitedly, as if the fear he had felt from being dominated by Lin had finally found an outlet. On the Whitebeard pirate side, Marco and the others exchanged bewildered glances. Is it really just a bluff? Joz said in a muffled voice. Whitebeard also looked suspicious. Such a dramatic change in momentum. Is it just for show? Lind. Worry also flashed in Kaido's huge dragon eyes. He knew about the side effects of the 8 Gates formation, but he didn't expect Lin to show signs of fatigue so quickly. Kid, your trick is over. Ben Beckman's eyes flashed with a sharp light. He wouldn't let this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity slip by. Regardless of why the Crimson Demon God disappeared, this brat is definitely at his weakest right now. He flashed by. They instantly teleported into midair. It's down to the side. Boom! Without the slightest hesitation, Ben Beckman raised his gun again, and a bullet, imbued with armament Haki and demonic energy, shot towards Lin with lightning speed. He aimed the shot at Lin's thigh. He didn't intend to kill him outright, but he had to completely incapacitate the brat. The bullet tore through the air, making a sharp whistling sound. It looked like it was about to hit Lin's pink and tender calf. Everyone's heart was in their throat. In the blink of an eye, Lin glanced calmly at the incoming bullets with his dark eyes. His small right fist was clenched gently. Then he threw a punch in the direction the bullet was coming from. 1 foot. The childish voice rang out again. Next second. Boom! A condensed, cylindrical shockwave, like a cannonball, erupted from Lin's fist. The specially designed bullet, powerful enough to pierce steel and imbued with Ben Beckman's immense strength, struck the shockwave the moment it came into contact with it. It shattered on the spot, just like fragile glass. It turned into countless tiny fragments, scattering and flying everywhere. The aftershocks didn't stop. It hurtled straight toward Beckman. Ben Beckman quickly dodged. Boom! He dodged it. But the sea behind him was suddenly ripped open into a cylindrical hole. The seawater was pushed outwards, and the seabed reefs hundreds of meters deep could be clearly seen. Chapter 49. Lin, stay on guard. I'll go easy on you with this kick. Time seemed to stand still at that moment. The sea breeze has also stopped blowing. The expressions on everyone's faces froze. Whether it was the red-haired pirates, the white-beard pirates, or Kaido himself, they all stared wide-eyed, their mouths agape enough to fit a sea king. What just happened? A member of the red-haired pirates asked, his voice trembling. Beckman's bullet. Just like that, it exploded. Yasop's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets, and the ecstasy on his face was instantly replaced by boundless horror. The sea has parted. It hasn't healed yet. What kind of tactic is this? The crew members on both royal fleets let out screams of alarm. This. Ben Beckman was completely stunned. His usually composed face was now filled with disbelief. He saw it clearly. That brat just threw a punch casually. Just like that, so casually. He just blasted the bullet he fired with all his might from a distance. What kind of heaven-defying method is this? This kid not only kept up with the speed of a bullet. This level of destruction. It's fucking outrageous. Oh my god. Well done, Lin. Kaido was the first to react, and his deafening laughter shattered the eerie silence. He's not worried at all now. This kid is hiding his true colors. The disappearance of that crimson demon just now was not due to exhaustion. That brat did it on purpose. He's fishing. No, to be more precise, he no longer needs this defensive measure. Relieving the symptoms can actually reduce physical exertion. It's clear that this kid has accumulated considerable combat experience through so many battles. Iya. Lin seemed completely unconcerned about the shock of the crowd. He blinked his large, dark eyes and raised his small right fist again. Then another punch. 2 legs. Boom! Another terrifying cylindrical shockwave blasted towards Ben Beckman from a distance. The speed was so fast that it completely exceeded the limits of what the naked eye could perceive. Not good. Ben Beckman's pupils contracted sharply, as a strong sense of crisis surged into his heart. Without a second thought, he immediately unleashed his observation Haki to its fullest extent, his body flashing to the side like a ghost. Boom! The shockwave grazed past his body and slammed into the distant sea. In an instant, another hole has been punched in the sea. The discharged seawater caused both the Redfords and the Moby Dick to shake violently. I dodged it. The members of the red-haired pirates all breathed a sigh of relief. However, they didn't even have time to be happy. 3 legs. 4 legs. 5 legs. Lynn's small figure hovered in midair, her pink little fists raining down like a barrage of blows. Boom! 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 3 consecutive cylindrical shockwaves, condensed to the point of being almost tangible, bombarded Ben Beckman like a storm. Each shockwave contains a terrifying power capable of easily piercing through the ocean. And each one was faster than the last. Each one is more ferocious than the last. I absolutely cannot be hit by any attack otherwise. Ben Beckman was terrified and pushed his speed and observation Haki to the limit. His figure blurred across the deck, narrowly dodging each deadly attack. On the sea, towering waves surged like boiling water. 5 huge holes were torn open in the sea, and they have been unable to heal for a long time. OMG. Is this even human? Every punch is comparable to a general's full-force strike. A little brat. A general. That's terrifying. Both the white-beard pirates and the red-haired pirates were terrified, and their scalps tingled. They finally realized that the blood-red skeleton they had just seen was not Lynn's limit at all. This blood-red demon, child wearing open-crotch pants, is the real monster. Shanks and Whitebeard also had extremely solemn expressions on their faces. They asked themselves if they could withstand such a dense and terrifying attack. Half. Ben Beckman had beads of sweat on his forehead, and his breathing became a little rapid. Although he dodged all the attacks, he was under immense mental strain and exhausted. Just then, Lynn stopped attacking. His dark, clear eyes were fixed on Ben Beckman. Then he opened his pink little mouth slightly and said in a childish voice, "Ida, you be prepared to defend. Prepare for defense." Upon hearing those 4 words, Ben Beckman's heart skipped a beat. An unprecedented and extreme sense of crisis overwhelmed him like a tidal wave. Without hesitation, he pushed his armament Haki to its limit. His entire body was covered in jet-black armor Haki, like a materialized suit of armor. Next second, to everyone's utter astonishment, crimson steam erupted from Lynn's body once again. The steam was even more concentrated and violent than when the 8 gates were activated before. He was half-crouched in the air. It looks like they're making a starting motion. At the same time, a wild, destructive, and despairing aura emanated wildly from his small body. Night. The words, though spoken in a childish voice, carried an undeniable declaration and came from Lynn's mouth. His body, enveloped in crimson steam, began to undergo astonishing changes. Several lines appeared on the skin. It emitted a scorching red light. His eyes had completely transformed into vortexes burning with blood flames. A terrifying, suffocating pressure, surpassing all previous forms, swept across the entire sea area. What is this? He can get stronger. This aura. It's even more exaggerated than my father's when he was young. Everyone was terrified by the aura that Lynn was unleashing at that moment. Shanks and Whitebeard's expressions changed drastically. They sensed a terrifying power emanating from Lin that threatened their lives. Lin's small figure arched slightly in midair, like a cheetah poised to pounce. The target is Ben Beckman. It looked like Lin was about to launch his final attack. At this critical moment, etc., Ben Beckman suddenly shouted, then reluctantly put down his gun and silently raised his hands. Kid. Fine, I admit, you won this fight. Chapter 50. Shanks takes the battle, Knight's End versus God's Avoidance. Ben Beckman said this with an unusually calm expression. His deep eyes calmly gazed at the crimson demon god suspended in midair. His prized marksmanship, his all-out strike that blended domineering and ghostly power, couldn't even leave a decent scratch on that blood-red demon god. And he was very clear about it. He couldn't possibly block the protagonist's next attack. Losing was inevitable, rather than being beaten so badly that you cough up blood. It would be better to surrender and admit defeat outright. Even Beckman has admitted defeat. Not surprising. That brat's aura is ridiculously strong. The outcome is already very clear. That brat is absolutely terrifying. The crew members of the red-haired pirates showed no surprise or confusion, but rather a heavy sense of understanding. They witnessed firsthand the terrifying power of that brat, from the devastation of Lockster to the defeat of Yassop, Marco's injuries, and Beckman's defense, which he couldn't break despite his best efforts. That's a monster that no human can fight. Beckman's choice was entirely reasonable. The atmosphere was equally heavy on the Whitebeard pirate side. Even Beckman, Jaws loosened his huge fist slightly, his eyes filled with complex emotions. That brat's strength is indeed unfathomable. Vista's brows furrowed. Marco clutched his chest, looking at the blood-red giant in midair radiating overwhelming demonic energy, then at the calm-faced Ben Beckman, and felt no more resentment. In retrospect, losing to such a monster is not a disgrace. But this made everyone's brows furrow even more. Yassop, Marco, Beckman. They all lost one after another. Who else can challenge this brat? Kaido's triumphant, explosive laughter once again resounded through the sky, louder and more piercing than ever before. His enormous dragon head excitedly rubbed against Lin's blood-red Susanoo, spitting everywhere, almost dripping onto the red-haired pirate's ship below. Did you all see that? Red-haired brat. White-bearded old man. This is the true power of my son, Kaido. Who else? Anyone else disagree? Come and try. Kaido's arrogance is practically soaring to the heavens. His smug look made the officers of the Whitebeard pirates and the red-haired pirates turn pale, wishing they could rush up and fight Kaido to the death. But they glanced at the crimson demon god in midair, but ultimately swallowed their resentment. We can't beat them. We really can't beat them. Ding! Congratulations, host, for successfully defeating an admiral-level combatant, Ben Beckman, vice-captain of the red-haired pirates. Mission 3. Defeat 4 characters of Shichibukai caliber or higher 3-4. In Lin's mind, the system's cold notification sounds rang out one after another. There's only one left. But at this moment, Lin, who had transformed into the blood demon child, couldn't help but furrow his brows slightly. It doesn't mean anything, she murmured in a childish voice. He thought he could finally find a partner and test the limits of his current strongest attack from the 8 gates. Ben Beckman is definitely a general-level player. Even he doesn't play with me anymore. Who else could it be? His voice wasn't loud. But who were the people present? Their observation, haki, and hearing are absolutely top-notch. How could they not hear them? They all gritted their teeth at Lin, but there was nothing they could do. Just as Lin was about to deactivate her Night Grace form, suddenly, Lin the demon child, since you find it boring, a calm yet authoritative voice came from the Redford. Red-haired Shanks, with his hand on the famous sword Griffin at his waist, slowly walked to the front. The smile on his face had vanished, replaced by an unprecedented seriousness and fighting spirit. Those deep eyes were fixed on Lin, inside the blood-red Susanoo, in midair. How about I become your opponent? These words shocked everyone present. Captain, the red-haired boss, Yasop, Lucky Roo, and the others all stared at Shanks in disbelief. Red hair. Even the members of the Whitebeard pirates were all astonished. Whitebeard looked at Shanks with even greater confusion. Is this redhead really going to do it himself? Red-haired. Have you no shame? Kaido's massive dragon head abruptly turned towards Shanks, his fiery eyes filled with rage and contempt. You can't beat the underlings, so you want to personally bully my son. You've utterly disgraced the 4 emperors. And didn't we already say that? You and the white-bearded old man are not allowed to make a move. Are you going back on your word now? Upon hearing this, Shanks merely glanced at Kaido indifferently. Kaido, you can't say that. It's your son who bullied the big guys by taking advantage of his small size, bullying the group of people on my ship. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the pitiful Lockster, the resentful Yasop, and the calm Ben Beckman. Of my crew, 2 are seriously wounded, and 1 has given up. If I, as the captain, don't step up, won't people laugh at our red-haired pirates for having no one to lead them? Shanks' voice was calm, yet carried an undeniable sense of pressure. He looked at Lin again, a slight upturn at the corners of his mouth, forming a somewhat provocative arc. What's wrong, kid? Didn't you just think it was boring? Now do you dare to challenge a true Yonko? Provocation. A blatant act of provocation. Everyone could tell. Kaido roared in fury, red-haired brat. Stop playing tricks. Come at me if you dare. However, Lin, inside the crimson Susanoo, calmly gazed at Shanks with his scarlet eyes. Iya. There was no anger, no disdain. However, the frenzied fighting spirit that had just begun to dissipate deep in his eyes seemed to have been reignited. Eh, eh. The crimson steam that had been about to dissipate after Ben Beckman conceded defeat suddenly erupted with an even more dazzling and ominous crimson light. Its overwhelming momentum swept across the heavens and earth once again. That suffocating sense of oppression has returned. Lin. Seeing this, Kaido knew Lin's choice and couldn't stop him any longer. Be careful, this red-haired guy is no pushover. Shanks' smile deepened. Very good. At this moment, his aura also began to rise wildly. Boom! An unparalleled and terrifying Conqueror's Haki erupted from Shanks' body like a volcanic eruption. That domineering aura, condensed to the point of being tangible, transformed into visible black lightning that raged wildly around him. The sky was ablaze with color. The sea roared in response. Is this Shanks' true strength? Much scarier than my dad. The crew members of the Whitebeard pirates all looked surprised. Whitebeard's pupils also contracted sharply, his hawk-like eyes fixed intently on Shanks. That red-haired brat. He's gotten much stronger over the years. The crimson steam swayed slightly under the impact of Shanks' terrifying Conqueror's Haki. But inside, Lin's small body remained completely still. The crimson steam emanating from his body grew increasingly intense, almost threatening to completely engulf his small figure. That will to destroy Everything made everyone present feel a chill run down their spines. Night. Hem. Lin's childish voice emanated from the crimson steam, carrying an undeniable resolve. His small body crouched down slightly again. Crimson energy surged wildly toward his right leg. The surrounding air was compressed to its limit by this force. Next moment, Lin's figure was completely enveloped in crimson energy, transforming into a giant crimson meteor that tore through space and hurtled toward Shanks at a speed that surpassed the limits of vision. One kick. A powerful kick that gathers all the power of the 8 gates, the gate of death. Wherever that foot passed, fine black cracks appeared in the space. The ocean, pressed by this unparalleled force, was forced to create a huge dent. Terror. Absolutely stunning. Well done. Faced with this devastating attack, Shanks did not retreat but advanced. His deep eyes burned with fierce fighting spirit. The famous sword griffin in his hand emitted an excited hum. Gods beware. The griffin in his hand was wrapped in jet-black armament Haki and Conqueror's Haki that exploded like black lightning, and he slashed forward fiercely. A massive, terrifying black slash, powerful enough to cleave an island in two, carrying an aura of annihilation, met the crimson meteor head-on. Boom! The right leg, solidified with crimson energy, collided violently with the black divine shield in midair.